Okcoin, we're a US licensed exchange, and we're a crypto exchange. So a lot of digital assets that people trade out there, we trade as well. We like to differentiate ourselves because we believe in crypto for all, and we really try to live by those values. So as an example, we have the lowest fees in the market. For our earned products, we don't charge anything for earn. And we believe in empowering, especially in the US, various minority groups and women. So we're the only exchange out there that pledged 50% of our customers to be women by 2025. We constantly give donations and over millions of dollars to women's development groups. People don't know this about us, but we always donate to Bitcoin Core developers. What was the latest that we've given? Do you remember?
It was $150,000 to Gloria Zhao. Yeah, that was announced in Miami. We're big fans of supporting the Bitcoin development, open source development ecosystem. That's actually the grant program is actually something that I run and very dear to our heart. Yeah. The future of crypto, I waver on this a lot myself. It's not easy to tell. I think there's two buckets that I think in. One is sort of the Bitcoin's path of being sort of this non-sovereign digital asset. I think that's a given. Like Alex said, that's moving in slow motion. Everyone's going to adopt it. Everyone's going to, along the edges, the infrastructure is being built out, the adoption's playing out. You go through the cycles, but you can see where it's headed. The other part is this more part where I struggle with maybe myself a little bit more is the experimentation part, right? You see all these things being built on top of smart contracts. You see interactions between composable blockchains and things like that. A lot of that, and we obviously seen the spectacular successes and recent spectacular failures of some of these experiments. A lot of that stuff is being played out. I don't know exactly how that will go, but I appreciate that there is experimentation happening and it doesn't require someone to allow anyone to try. If you're investing and you're you obviously need to do your homework with this stuff. I think that remains to be seen, and I'm eager to see how it plays out. I'm still very optimistic that there's going to be very significant use cases that are going to be built from sort of this side of the pie.
Yeah, I agree with Jason. A lot of people are I don't know how many, it's my job to know, but I actually don't know how many coins there are out there, 15,000, 19,000. The vast majority of them, which is why the regulators are coming, and when I think everyone in the space that's in it for the right reasons, is for good, sensible regulation. The vast majority of them are garbage, okay? So I'll call it 19,000 coins, probably 18,000 are garbage. But if you look back throughout history and understanding software, just looking at the Linux, there's a great map online. We can find it, but of the forks that Linux has, okay? Hundreds of forks Linux has. If you think back for how the internet was built, there were dozens of protocols before one was chosen. We had IRC, we had different relay chats, internet relay chats that were used that aren't necessarily used now. Even from a UX perspective, user perspective, AOL, a walled garden versus an open internet. We are literally going through the same thing now. Do you do decentralized or do you do more centralized blockchains? Literally the AOL versus everything else.
My name is Natalie Brunell, and I host the Coin Stories podcast. I do Bitcoin analysis for Money Talks. I'm really grateful that Bill brought me in, and so I offer perspective on some of the latest Bitcoin headlines. Well, right now I'm very bullish on Bitcoin, and I think that the price dip is actually a great time to accumulate more. And I'm really bullish on what's going to happen with regulation. There was a bipartisan bill that just recently came out that I think is going to push adoption ahead and really recognize Bitcoin as a legitimate digital asset and a legitimate investment. So I'm excited to see what happens with that. I think an ETF is in the future. I think that the other cryptocurrencies will be deemed securities, whereas Bitcoin will have a light shined on it as a digital property and as really something that could propel us into really a future where we're able to save and protect the purchasing power of our money. I think the naysayers just really haven't studied the technology, how powerful it is, the fact that it's completely decentralized, that no one can control it, that it's permissionless, that it's actually allowing people to have access to a banking system around the world and allowing people to accumulate wealth here in the US, where we already sort of have a habit to save. The 60/40 portfolio is dead. I mean, look at stocks are just as volatile and they're falling just as hard, if not harder, than Bitcoin. And I think that people need to find new ways to figure out how to protect their money. It's really sad to me that in the country that represents the American dream, that people are so indebted, that people use their homes as savings accounts, that they have to try to play day trader in order to risk their money in order to beat inflation, and that it's so hard to take care of your family, and inflation is really crushing savers and the middle class. I don't think it should be that way, and I think Bitcoin can help address some of those issues. For someone who's skeptical and scared and nervous about entering into the Bitcoin space, I say to them, I was just like you. I was also really nervous and I thought it was like gambling. I thought I would lose all my money, but it was because I didn't understand it. I didn't know what I was investing in. And so I think it's really important to take the steps to really educate yourself and to listen to so many voices that are out there that are trying to teach people about what Bitcoin is and also what role it plays as money.
Hi, I'm Ralf Kubli, and I'm one of the board members of the Casper Association. The Casper Association is the steward of the open source, code base of the Casper blockchain, and the Casper blockchain is the first blockchain that implemented CBC, correct by construction consensus mechanism. So we have focused when we built Casper, the founders that built Casper, really on a modularity so that we can exchange certain parts of the Casper blockchain as we go along. So we make it an iterative process and the software really gets developed over time and hardened over time as well. That gives us some flexibility in how we upgrade the entire network. So Casper was really born out of the desire to overcome some of the typical hindrances and problems in adoption, blockchain adoption. The founders of Casper and in the ecosystem, we believe that everyone deserves really good software that they can use relatively easily and that they can integrate in their existing application environments. So the state of crypto is actually not that bad. I think we really are too much focused on valuations, and we have to focus more on the technology that is being built. So unfortunately, this unwinding of some of these smart contract environments that had TVL locked, they were visible. I mean, when you read the smart contracts, or when you read the contracts, and when you understood the relationship between these entities, you could anticipate that one day, if values go the other way, it will unravel. And it was evident it would unravel at some point because nothing is impossible, right? So it is unfortunate that just one case or a few cases are really taken as a representation of the entire space. So I think we have to get used to a little bit more depressed valuations when we think about that. But overall, I'm very excited about the crypto space because we have to think we're building the infrastructure for a future economic activity. So some of these valuations and some of these projects will be valued, will be extremely elevated because they will be the new rails for the future economic activity.
I think we have to look at the fundamentals. So the fundamentals are really that we have a deflationary asset, right? So really when we're looking at Bitcoin as an aggregate, you look at Ethereum as an aggregate, right? You see deflationary tendencies, which is very countercyclical, right? So even in the context of Fed tightening, we're definitely going to see, I think, positive buying pressure, especially at the current price levels. I think the best thing to do is spend time with builders, right? Developers and projects, right? And the question that you need to ask is, what problems are being solved, right? And what you'll find that there are tremendous problem solvers and that really we're building towards a future of decentralized financial infrastructure, right? So it's open source financial infrastructure, which is really going to sort of illuminate the future of finance, commerce, and really of kind of the global economy.
So my name is Derek Yu, and I'm the CEO of PureStake, but really we're best known for the project we work on called Moonbeam. PureStake is like the engineering development company that's working on the protocol itself. But Moonbeam, there's a Moonbeam Foundation that is the steward of the network that we've created, a decentralized network. The key idea of Moonbeam is that we're trying to create a smart contract platform that is purpose-built for interoperability use cases, for cross-chain use cases. a lot of the retail interests. So if you're talking about DeFi, a lot of liquidity, these things have obviously gone down a lot, and a lot of that's disappeared. But like I said, if I look at just the amount of development, we launched our Moonbeam network in January, so we're about 5 months in now. But even in that short 5 months, we have we have a couple hundred projects that are building in our ecosystem at this point. So there's a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of demand for especially younger teams that really believe in this to build a protocol. Folks that are actually building are the ones that are moving the whole movement forward. And even now you see that the markets are down, so a lot of the retail interest is left. But from my perspective, there's more building going on now than ever. I mean, we're seeing a lot of builders still. I think good teams can still get funding. So I actually am quite optimistic. Even if the market as a whole is the asset prices are down, I see a lot of great building going on.
My name is Francesco. I'm CEO of Kadena Eco, the ecosystem growth arm for Kadena. So Kadena is the only next generation layer 1 blockchain that's innovating on proof of work. We're also the only blockchain that has solved for the trilemma of security, scalability, and decentralization. So I'm actually CEO of Kadena Eco, which is the ecosystem growth company. So basically we just started out this year in February, growing fast. Kadena Eco has 5 major initiatives. The first is an ecosystem fund where we invest in companies. We also have a grants program where we just announced $100 million in grants around a month ago. We also have an accelerator, an incubator, and are soon to launch an R&D department that will sort of bring forward what the next generation of UX for mainstream adoption looks like on a blockchain. For us, it's very easy. We've always been tech first. We built our blockchain from the ground up with a totally new architecture, like nothing else out there. We built our smart contract language from the ground up. And that's not necessarily because we wanted to, but because we recognized that all other architectures and smart contract languages were eventually going to have problems. And these things that we've been singing about for the past 3 or 4 years have now slowly become true. Gas fees going through the roof. Security problems with bridges. Smart contract languages that are very, very hard to innovate with, like Solidity. What you see with Solidity sort of smart contracts is very little innovation because the risk to writing new code has gone up to billions and billions of dollars to put a new line of code in there. But if you are looking for your own projects out there, go and check the code, right? If this project happens to be 80 or 90% the same as something else, it probably means that they're not innovating very much on the tech front and are investing mostly in marketing. Where in a business like blockchain, where it's still the early days, tech is 100% the most important thing to push the needle forward and bring new use cases to the table.
Yeah, my name is Stephan. I'm currently at Harvard Business School, but will be working at Polygon Studios this summer.
Yeah, my name is Alvin. So I'm the co-founder of Maverick Protocol. It's a pretty novel AMM, automated market maker. So before this, I was in crypto since 2018. In my previous life, I was part of the MetaMask wallet. I've always been dabbling in emerging techs before, crypto. I was in VR and AR, so it didn't really take off that much. And then crypto was super exciting, so I basically joined crypto 2018. And then I basically, been here and there in crypto, mostly on the product side. Built, crypto debit card, interest earning, lending product, and DeFi yield aggregator.
My name is Ahman Puri. I'm currently at Harvard Business School. This summer I'm working at Syndicate DAO, and before business school I was working at the SoftBank Vision Fund. We're doing the MBA program, so we're just getting a master's in business administration, I guess. Within that, there aren't really concentrations. I think people focus on different things. I'm going to try to focus more on technology entrepreneurship, especially my second year.
Yeah, it's a very generalized curriculum. I'm probably going to focus similarly to Ahman on those areas, probably a little bit of macro stuff too, just given how relevant that is to crypto. We're generally in our little Harvard bubble, so it's really great to get out here and really connect with folks in industry. I think we take it for granted in this remote working world that we have all this flexibility, but The downside of that is we don't get to come together as often. So to the extent that, we can aggregate so many people from all stripes and backgrounds who are interested in Web3 together, for students as us, we're just, trying to be sponges, soak up as much as possible. It's a great opportunity.
Harvard people, coming to Web3, they have all the options, right? McKinsey, like hedge fund in big tech like Google, Facebook, but they chose to intern or to work in a crypto native firm. That's a huge signal. And on top of that, we're seeing a lot of people, very senior engineers from Silicon Valley are like ditching Airbnb, Pinterest, Twitter to Web3 all in. So that's another really big signal to me. For me, one of our investors said, hey, you should get in touch with Harvard, and Stephan's doing great stuff for the whole business school as well as undergrad and even the law school of Harvard, right, to get into crypto Web3. So we basically did an event last night. It was like 300 people came, with Pantera Capital. It was a blast. So just catching up today, talking with some banks, see that what's their direction on Web3. So it's all great time.
Definitely a burgeoning ecosystem. COVID happened, there wasn't a lot going on, but we really wanted to bring more growth to the overall ecosystem. A lot of our peers are doing conferences, MIT, a couple miles down the road, and Stanford and Berkeley and those sorts of schools. So we wanted to bring more awareness to the student body. And so, the biggest way we kind of engaged the community this past year was to do an all Harvard conference. So we brought out 1,300 students from across HBS, the business school, undergrad, and the law school, made it a truly interdisciplinary conference. And again, the goal is to engage the community, get folks involved. We have professors getting involved. There's actually case studies being written at the business school on crypto projects. And so there's a lot of activity going on. So we're really trying to take it to the next level this upcoming year. Yeah, I think it's a great time to be a builder and an investor, frankly. I mean, I think a lot of tourists got washed out in this recent downturn, and that means that capital is becoming a little scarcer. It means talent is going to become a little more concentrated, and it means, the companies with the best tech will have the best chance of succeeding. If you look a little bit before this, you can probably market your way to a certain level of market share just because there's so much capital coming into the space, so many retail investors with high risk appetites willing to jump at whatever yield comes out. And we've seen instances of where that fell apart. And so I think this is a great time to get into space. It's really weird to say that, but I'd rather be in the space with true believers, where that talent is concentrated, and the long-term outlook is still very bullish, than while it's very crowded.
This downturn is great because it washes out a lot of the noise, and people who are truly building sustainable businesses and products are the ones that will stay. And the other thing is, I think this bear market is very different to 2018. In 2018, I think the peak before the crash was like a couple $100 billion, the aggregate market cap across all crypto. Now it's over $1 trillion. So now it's a force that is so large that despite the bear market, it's not going away. It's not diminishing in size that substantially. There's a lot of people and a lot of talent in this space, and that's not changing. And crypto funds raised, I think 15 billion this year before the crash. That's not including Andreessen's $4.5 billion fund. So I think there's enough talent and money in this space that people will continue to build, but hopefully a lot of the noise and people who are, kind of just trying to make money, that'll go away.
I think another perspective for us is that for a newer product to go to market, the cost is actually lower. So a real world example being like on Polygon, if we're to launch a DAX, in the past, if we were to compete with people like Uniswap, you need 10 million, I would say 40, 50 million TVL, total value locked, staking to have meaningful result competing with them. But now we're looking at probably 10 million. So it's much easier for us to go to market, have meaningful result, and start iterate, sort of wait for the next bull market. And agree to Ahman, right? So I've been into a couple bear markets before. This is nowhere near the bear markets before. Before was like, looking at Bitcoin to 3,000, and you have all the talents are like sort of leaving crypto company to larger big tech firms like Apple and Facebook, for their sort of stability. But here is that you have all talents rushing in still. It's going to be great.